Well, metaverse is such a catchphrase. Everybody is saying metaverse, metaverse, like we need to be metaverse company, but nobody really knows what it means. It is ultimately a space that alternative reality that's built sort of on top of our real world.
Hello everyone and welcome yet to another episode of NewForum. NewForum is powered by NewCoin Foundation and is focused on fostering decentralized social applications, also known as Social 3.0, by forming an ecosystem and a community of visionaries, creators, and investors to spark conversations on the topics of crypto, the metaverse, NFTs, and everything Web3.
And on today's episode, we have Olive Allen, a New York-based visual artist. She's a pioneer of the crypto art movement and has been creating in the NFT space since its inception. Her art, Sardonic in Nature, explores current cultural shifts through deeply personal experience. Hey, Olive, we're super excited to have you on this episode of NewForum.
Hi, ladies. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. So Olive, you started your journey in 2018, and what was your initial idea getting into crypto?
Yes, that's correct. I started a journey in the NFT space in 2018, but I was familiar with crypto. Bought my first Bitcoin back in 2013. But I wasn't an active participant in the whole space, obviously. Just going to school, like different things going on. But late 2017, there were a lot of action in the space. There were a lot of startups, there were a lot of ICOs, there were a lot of coins, and I got interested again. And in 2018, that's where I've heard about NFTs. They were called ERC 721 Ethereum Smart Contract Standard. That's confusing, and I was like, this is it. This is the future. I mean, digital assets finally have a different status of something tangible, something real. And yeah, I decided that's time to get in. That's time to go like full on. And yeah, it's 2022. I'm still here.
Awesome. So like when did you actually start like making NFTs? Because when I read your intro, I mentioned that you're an NFT artist. So like, how has that experience been? Because I mean, sometimes we throw around the words like NFT artists, crypto this, and we have a lot of like beginners as well as part of our community. So it'd be good to kind of like expound on that a bit.
Right. I think I am an NFT artist in a sense, right? I've never been creating digital art before NFTs. So my art practice in the digital realm evolved together with the space. But of course, I was a painter before. I am an artist in that larger sense. I am an entrepreneur. I had a startup before. Many different things. I don't like to label myself, but whatever I prefer. I think an NFT artist is accurate among other things. And yeah, I guess I'm an NFT native artist. Basically, I wasn't creating digital art before NFTs. So that's not as common as you might think. A lot of creators were making digital art forever before NFTs, but it's not me.
So you also had an exhibition with Art Basel, and it looked very like metaversey. And maybe could you explain what the metaverse means to you, or how you define it, and about this collection as well?
That's a great question about metaverse. My solo show is going to open in New York on April 30th, and the theme is metaverse. In fact, it is called Welcome to the Metaverse. Well, metaverse is such a catchphrase. Everybody is saying metaverse, metaverse, like we need to be metaverse company, but nobody really knows what it means. It is ultimately a space that alternative reality that's built sort of on top of our real world. That's ultimate internet space, sort of like Second Life, but elevated. So like play already one world. I mean, of course, nobody has built the metaverse yet. We're far from it, really. It's if you go like one of those places, it's just a ghost town, especially those in Web3. And the crypto space is like really no one's there on a good day, on a bad day, or any other day. Nobody even builds it. But nevertheless, it's just a pipe dream. It's a dream that everybody has. That's an ultimate escape from reality, which may not be ideal for many, many people. It's ultimate dream. That's a possibility, grand realm of possibility, right? It's the place where nothing's impossible, where the future is better, everything's better. It's just ultimate dream, which probably is not going to come true the way everybody wants it to be, right? Because it's, who is it due by? But same people are building anything, like corporations and etc. And what's the incentive? That's a question like not for me to answer, I guess. I guess it's major what my show is about. What the future holds and what we want versus what was gonna get.
That's really interesting. So from your perspective, you would say that the UX, like the experience for artists in the metaverse right now, is not fully there yet?
There is no metaverse right now.
Love that answer.
It doesn't exist, really.
Wow, that's like such an assertive answer, because most of the time when we've had like a lot of amazing guests, and they've all come with their own like version of a story, or I guess opinions about metaverse. And some say they've experienced it, had parties in the metaverse. Some say it's not here yet. And so it's very, very interesting. Like, how come we're all in the space, we're all seeing things, but how come we all have different perspectives? Like, it baffles me. But you did make a good point that I guess in a sense it has, even if it's there, I feel like it's still going to evolve, right? And there's so much more to be improved when it comes to the metaverse. And so we can't wait to see where it reaches. But then it's probably going to make, I guess, like in terms of like digital assets and exchange and collaboration and all of that, is going to make it like a lot more easier. But at the moment it's not here yet. And so I kind of want to know, as we know, like the art market has very high barriers like to entry. So since maybe the metaverse is not here to make things easier, how was that experience for you, being an artist? Because you also have a traditional background, like you said, you were a painter before.
Right. I guess it's never easy. What's worth doing is never like that easy, right? And there are a lot of people who want to do that, right? Like content creation, like who's stopping you from creating like TikTok content? Go create all day long. If you're creating like amazing content, you build audience, people follow you. If you're an artist, if you're creating great artwork, you have your style, like you're following, you have something to say, people will notice sooner or later. And it's a tough industry. Metaverse is a tough business as well. Like, hey, it's an investment thesis. How many people from all over the world try to build a metaverse of some sort and raise funds, like the best of the best, and because it's lucrative, everybody wants to be first. Everybody wants to be like first in the new space to monetize, essentially, right? It's like everybody and their brother is looking into that because that's the topic of the moment, right? And that's how it is. It's everything we're doing is highly competitive. And I guess when people talk about barriers of entry, I guess it's exposure, it's visibility, it's everything is the same. It's the same game every time, everywhere else. Maybe there are moments, there are pockets of times when everybody has a chance, but at the end of the day, as the industry matures, it's becoming like, in a sense, less inclusive, right? Everything else, right? Like B Corp, right? Everything, kind of like narrows down to big players at the end of the day, even metaverse companies in the space, because of the competition, right? That's the inevitable route.
Well, I guess the hope is that, Web3 gets to build this metaverse, right? Because of all the Web3 principles and ethos. And so we're hoping that we will take that upon ourselves in a sense. There's just so much creativity, right? And there's a bunch of geniuses, and in the space. So why can't we build this metaverse? Why do we leave it to the big players? This is something that I guess I'm still like thinking about and processing how, what can we do? How can we be the ones leading this metaverse?
Well, it's still like
Right.
the problem is we are still operating on like 3 platforms right now, or like 4, maybe 5 platforms, and like the Web3 conversation is still like mainly on Twitter. And I love the community there, but it's like we haven't really built the infrastructure yet. I don't know, maybe Olive has a different experience. Maybe she saw something that she's like, this metaverse or this NFT gallery is like sick, and she can convince me. But
well, Web3 community, I mean, it's a great thesis. It's it's a kind of like great packaging being sold to like the masses, right? Like Web2 sucks, but like Web3 is going to be different. I mean, society hasn't really changed much in the past 2-3 years, right? How is it going to be different? It's a social problem, right? It's the same people, right? We need to change our society and the way we see things to raise like base morality and our view on things to build a better space ultimately, right? Web3 is not a solution. Like decentralization is a pipe dream. That's my idea. I mean, I love the space, don't get me wrong. I dwell in it, that's where I build my name, but like don't get delusional in a sense that Web3 is going to solve all your problems. It's not going to solve all your problems. Like, no, that's not that. Like, hey, there are tools that allow greater control of content and your own identity of other things. But ultimately, yeah, it's up to everybody else. I mean, Web3 companies are also kind of run by corporations in a sense. They have to be run. They have a chain of command. They are run a very similar way, right? They are not decentralized in that sense. Like, yeah, they're remote workers, but like, you still like building on someone's servers essentially, right? Where's the metaverse housed? Like somebody has to maintain the infrastructure, right? Somebody has to like pay for hosting, right? It's still on the internet. There are no better systems in place yet. Yeah, you can like buy assets, on their blockchain. Yeah, you can buy land. You can build whatever you want to build for a tiny price of 15 ETH, chump change. But in a sense, right, I guess I'm very hopeful for the new generation. Gen Z is very, very self-aware, and I think way more inclusive and so different from millennials and boomers. Essentially, I'm very hopeful for the future, 100%. But to build the better metaverse society has to change with it. With current values, you just build what you know.
Would you say that like in terms of Web3, is the issue with the fact that we're not like fully decentralized, obviously, at the moment, because
we're not decentralized at all. Like, how are we decentralized?
Exactly, but then the goal is to be decentralized eventually, hopefully. But then now I'm like, I guess if somebody's watching this and then they're like thinking about, okay, so if Web3 is not decentralized, then what's this concept of ownership? Do I own my data? Do I really own my data? What would you tell somebody who asks?
No, like I'm sure you're on the gram, you're on Facebook, you don't own your data. This is it. Like that ship has sailed. No, not current people alive today don't own their data, right? Their data is out there, right? Web3, what makes easy, like to own your identity is a thesis. It makes it easy to sign up, right? MetaMask, just one click, that's Web3, right? It grants digital assets totally different status. So now virtual is real. So that was an essential step for building that layer of reality that Second Life didn't have at the time. Yeah, those are like small steps. Web3 it's still in its baby crate, so to say, right? Those are like just tools to like make things easier, better, more efficient, right? But I mean, allowing greater anonymity and other things, but decentralization itself, that were just like thrown out very generously, I'd say.
With your art, did you think like your relationship to your fans and people who support you has changed through Web3? Like making NFTs and like having people interact with your art, like did that change?
Yeah, of course it changed. I didn't have that many fans, if any at all before, to be honest. So it changed dramatically, I tell you that much. I mean, jokes aside, yes, you can make NFTs, dynamic. You can, it does a better communication and with your collectors, viewers. I mean, yes and no, really. Just to be honest, hard to tell. I think in theory it does. Honestly, sometimes it's hard to like really reach out to your collectors because they're all anonymous. A lot of not all of them, like a lot of them are. You like, I don't even have your email. Like, struggle is real. But yeah, I think there's a way to build a community. There is a way to connect with your audience in the digital realm, and that's fascinating. There's so many new tools that's being developed and having a new life, right? Like it's something I didn't really even know before, but like, hey, it exists. I think that's where we're going essentially, that like new parallel reality. That's we're all kind of like living online as avatars, right? Even if it's our own face, right? It's all like built-in persona that creates content, and that's what people want to see. Avatar is like sort of an alternate persona. At the end of the day, your online representation. It's just getting more sophisticated as we progress.
Interesting. I mean, it's really like interesting that you said, in terms of how you interact with your fans has changed. And I think that's what a lot of artists appreciate in comparison to the nature of the current, I guess, social platforms where you barely know who is following you, and sometimes it's just like having this like concept of like evaluating the work you're doing. I think can be very degrading to some extent. Like you sit down and you make a really beautiful art that you put yourself into it, and then you post it, and then it's just like just one person interacting. I think it can be discouraging. So it's really great that I think that so far, I know that we touched on the fact that decentralization is just like so far away, but I think that what excites me about Web3 is the potential of what it could be. We're not there, we're not there in so many ways, but I think the concept and idea is definitely it sort of came out from the idea of trying to problem solve something, right? We wanted to make some changes from how the current Web2, I guess, platforms are. And so that's kind of how we came up with all these solutions. And I think eventually we're going to get there. We have people like you getting people to really think, right, with this conversation we're having. So I think that this is really great. And so I think maybe we can talk a bit about like DAOs and community and communities in Web3. And I'm wondering if you're part of any DAOs.
Yes, I'm a part of Unicorn DAO, a DAO that collects female and non-binary artists, co-founded by Pussy Riot. That's the only DAO I'm a part of. Other DAOs, I'm not a huge believer in this organizational structure due to a number of reasons. So I declined my participation in a lot of them. It could be bad, could be good. It's just, again, like a testing grounds right now of different structures. It's just like, the day zero, in fact. What's going to work, what's not going to work. This is all very experimental things. NFT collections, like play to earn games, whatever that is in Web3, it's all like very, very experimental stages. And DAOs are too, a lot of DAOs run into numerous problems. Like, right, you pull your capital in and you spend it pretty much, and you have none left, and you just like that DAO kind of done here, right? That's a problem, and those assets get devalued and whatever stuff like that. You essentially lose your capital. There's no way to withdraw your capital. You put it to a DAO. Almost no practice of withdrawing capital. So it just goes one way. Another issue. Voting. I could, when the DAO just starts, a lot of people try to be active, vote for proposals and etc. But as the times goes on, only very, very small percentage of people vote. And basically it's not, and decisions are made by a group of individuals. So it's not really decentralized. It's not really run by people. It's run by a small group of people, basically, who decides on allocation of funds. And the only way you can actually like sort of withdraw, like get profit of whatever out of DAO is if DAO decides to release a coin that trades on the free market, which like not all DAOs has or will due to regulations and a gray area around it. Yeah, and some DAO coins are trading at pretty high volumes. Back when the market was hot, back in November this past year. Yeah, but I guess it's a gamble like people take.
So what made you?
It's a testing ground. People like try to like make real money out of DAOs or like invest it. Capital has to be like very cautious and be careful and be aware of like what pluses and what minuses, what to expect, and ask questions.
So what made you want to join Pussy Riot then?
To be honest, because I'm friends with Nadia, and investment thesis is something I believe in. And I guess I'm not fully invested, to be honest, in the sense I'm not one of the investors and one of the curators of the DAO. So it's a bit different membership category. Yeah, because I believe in the mission. And yeah.
Did you experience the other DAOs? Are you speaking from a place of experience in the sense that you were maybe a part of some DAOs and then, you kind of had a bad experience and then eventually you stumbled upon Pussy Riot DAO and then you kind of you were able to make some comparison to see that, okay, this is definitely doing something? Or was it just because of just because your values are aligned with this particular DAO? What was it? Because you said a lot of things you don't like about the structures when it comes to DAO. So I'm just curious to know how you got to that point.
Right. I'm just doing my research. Simple
okay.
As that. Whatever DAO, do your own research. It's all more or less transparent, and talk to other people who are in the DAOs. I talk to a lot of people. I'm pretty active in the community in a sense, right? And if I don't know something, I'll research it very, very obsessively. I think nothing can substitute a good old research. To form your opinion, you have to know everything. Otherwise, uneducated opinion, what's good for? And I did my research on several DAOs and their operations. Because I was truly curious. It always sounded like a good idea, but what looks too good on paper might not be too good when you actually dig deeper, right? And I just wanted to make an educated opinion, and I did.
We're hearing the problems, and I think it would be great to also understand what are some of, let's say, the features or the structural, or the values of Pussy Riot that makes you that makes it stand out for you, right? I think if you can share some of those details in general, in terms of what is it that you think makes a successful DAO or a better DAO? Any thoughts on that?
Well, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't do research in DAOs if I didn't believe that it would work. That's a very interesting structure. I think investment thesis has to really be on point, and DAO has to have a mission to actually do something good in the world. Right? To deliberately invest in art that is undervalued right now, like female and non-binary artists, right? That will essentially change the world. 100%. This is mission statement that is noble, which is not really in a sense about just money, right? It's about making real changes in the world for sure. That's what it's gonna be focused on for me to be even interested. Not that DAO just buys stupid things, memes on the internet, It has to have a mission statement and has to follow through and has to make an effort to involve everybody, right? I think those things are important. That's the realm of social change for sure, if done right. But again, this is the early days. I'm looking forward what the future holds. I'm sure there's a way to structure DAO and its elements the way it kind of have that longevity, and it can benefit community at large and everybody involved. It can incentivize, it can have that sort of, not just we spend all our funds later, type of situation, but have sustainable model of producing revenue, generating something, I really don't know how it can be done at the moment, but I'm sure it's possible. It is really possible if people put their minds to it, not just seek immediate profit, and it will happen eventually. I believe so. When the hype is dead.
Yeah, I think we just have to give it some time and see and reflect. And like you said, it's really, you made in this episode a really good point. Have to consider all angles, and it's not just, what we see on the internet. And I think it's really healthy to do that, to not buy into anything super quickly, but really, think about the long-term things. And I'm wondering, what would you say are like the biggest what are like the biggest tools you see? Like, we talked about NFTs and DAOs. Like, what do you think is going to stay in the future? Like, do you think NFTs, for example, are going to take over and in all industries, or what do you see in the future?
Yes, it's a new asset class, essentially, a new art medium, art, gaming, ticketing. So many industries can benefit for sure. It's like when we are moving to that digital economy, NFTs it's a substantial element of it. It is integral part. Yeah, of course, technology is here to stay.
And one to that, I'm also curious to know, because you're a visual artist, what do you think about AR and VR and gaming, maybe?
Right, it's also a new technology that's being in development right now, and it's not going anywhere. It's gonna get better and better, more usable. More content is going to be created, and yeah, it just takes time. It really takes longer than anticipated a lot of times, way longer than anticipated. Like, people were just like crazy about VR 10-15 years ago and like frantically invested, right? And it had their effects, right? Technology is slightly better, more people are interested. Yeah, just give it time, right? Everything comes when the society is ready for it. I think that's what it is, and when something happens, when people realize like, oh, digital is not so bad after all. Like, hey, NFT is like, same, art can be NFT, like everything can be NFT. Oh fuck, and it's like so much better. Yeah, it just makes sense. Yeah, totally convenient. Yeah, totally useful. And yeah, you guys, the Gen Z is like sort of digital natives. It's for sure, it's not going to go anywhere. It's here to stay, and it's going to get more and more developed as we go into the future. And I'm excited to see what's next. What's up? Maybe we'll finally do the metaverse. And after like everybody's like gonna get rich and like exit to be like, okay, thank you, we made some money. Okay, somebody will have to come now build metaverse. Hey, anybody's building?
Yes.
Please.
Right. Those are interesting, I guess, points, and it's going to get people processing and thinking. But again, like you said, everything takes time, and eventually, I guess we will see where everything ends up. And you definitely like used your voice and experience to address a lot of like social and cultural issues, and even as we were speaking, I can already like hear that you really care about that. And so I'm wondering if there's anything in particular that needs to be changed to introduce like a shift in how we operate in the space.
People should be more mindful of the future, not immediate profits. Mm-hmm. That's all I can say about operating in the space. And unfortunately, it is what it is. Crypto space, especially in those hype cycles, always attracts those who are here for immediate gain, with no regard for the implications or anything for that matter. But it is what it is. That's how the world and society, human nature is. But yeah, I'm seeing a lot of talent which just gets into space, like eager, have some sort of values and beliefs, and actually wants to make a future better. Of course, the game is rigged. Don't get me wrong, yes, it is. But it's the only game in town after all.
Well, I think it's also the fact that it's the only like game that we really have a chance to influence and impact. Like, if you look at other, let's say, games out there that we play in this world, it's not really always that easy to participate in and change the structure. So at least on the internet and with building, with creating, if you're a coder, if you're a designer, you can at least try to make it better, and at least like take your friends and say, let's do it differently. Yeah, I don't know how to solve that, but it's really a foundation that we all have to think about and lead. Like, we have to have great leaders who have good incentives. And yeah, but I'm really thankful that you brought like a really good point into this episode, a really reflective one. And I think the audience is going to appreciate what you have to say, you know, like the real perspectives behind the scenes of the crypto world.
Well, yeah, I mean, trying to do good as much as I can, even though talking about the drawbacks of Web3 and the industry as it today. I mean, it's not all sunny and perfect, like a lot of people will try to persuade you about, which is understandable. Everybody's protecting the investment thesis, but make whatever you do, just make your own research and form your own opinion. You know, thinking that's what gets rewarded in this world.
Well said. And yeah, with so much information out there, you know, you really have to do your research and learn and process. And I'm wondering, Olive, to our community, where can they find you to check out your art and, you know, check out all your exhibitions and everything?
My website, oliveallen.com. Instagram, I love Instagram. I'm on it. I'm Olive_Allen, my Instagram, and Twitter at I am Olive Allen. So
thank you so much, Olive. And I think that you're right. I think knowledge is power, you know, and it's very important that we educate ourselves. And yes, this is, like Joyce said, it's a new space that nothing has been done like this before. And there's just so much growth that can happen. It's got a lot of potential, and we've already seen a lot of people sort of like succeeding, like a lot of success stories. We had one guest from Nigeria. We had some guests from Ghana, and you know, it's just really nice that all these amazing talents can be part of the conversation. And I think this is one of the great things about Web3. But also, you pointed out a lot of, you know, the pros and the cons, and I think it's great because we can't always be talking about like the shining part of things. It's good to talk about all the different sides so that we can all actually process and find solutions to them. So this was really great, and I'm really, really glad that we could have you on this episode and we could, you know, get into this type of conversation. I think it's really relevant. So thank you so much, Olive. Thank you, Joy, and thank you all for being a part of this episode of NewForum. And if you want to get more involved in our community, make sure to follow us on our social platforms. IG is newcoin.nco, and our website is newcoin.org. We also have a private Telegram group, and the link will be in the description. Pretty much all the links will always be in the description. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And if you guys have any questions, don't forget to put them in the comments below. And we will see you in the next episode.
Awesome.
Bye.
Thank you for having me.